Alrighty, still working on this 95 Blazer 4.3 liter with the CMFI, or central multi-port fuel injection, as GM likes to call it. We call it CPI, central port injection. But I took the upper plenum off. You can see the original, or not the original, the new spider assembly we put in, the new lines that were leaking. That's all good. But I think there's a fuel pressure regulator issue on this, and that's why we're not building up enough fuel pressure. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove this. They'll warranty it out at the store with another reman one. You can get a reman one for only, you know, 88 bucks. A new one's like 250, 260. So we'll try that again. I did notice, however, though, around this EGR fitting right there, it looks kind of wet. I don't know if that's leaking there or if that's causing some lean conditions, but I smoked this thing, so I didn't see nothing leaking out of there. But again, who knows? And if you look at the upper plenum, you can see right there, it's all pretty clean, except for that EGR port is. Got some residue on there. And I also noticed, so on the driver's side bank, it's pretty dry in there. Passenger side, it's wet, right? Some residual stuff in there. So I'm gonna make sure there's no leaks still. Go ahead and use my test port. Battery positive to my test port. Fuel pumps on, I can hear it. I hear it going through there, but I don't see no leaks. I just did this a little bit ago. Unless those poppets are leaking, but that'll give us a rich condition, which we're not running rich, we're running very lean. Because again, we got, you know, 50 to 75% positive short-term fuel trims. So I don't see nothing leaking there. And I don't see nothing leaking there. But we're gonna go ahead and change this out since it's to be warranted, and we'll go from there. Alrighty. Got the second new spider injection assembly in. The line's hooked up. Got that clip on right there, tip of the light that holds the lines in. Wire integrity, harness is all good. No chafing issues there. Got it routed correctly. Got it powered up from the battery to clip like last time. And we have no leaks. You can hear the pump on, so no leaks. So now we just got to put this thing all back together and redo our tests. And go from there. That little hole on the regulator there, that's for vacuum. This whole entire manifold sits inside this upper plenum, so it's all vacuum. So we'll hook this back up, run it, check fuel pressure, and go from there. Alright, I got everything back together. I did put some sealant on there because the gasket kit and the rubber on the spider injection assembly that they gave you, well, I don't know whoever made it, but it's garbage. Actually, most of the parts these days are fucking garbage. But anyway, that's a different conversation. But I got everything back together. Battery positive, hooked up to the fuel jumper lead there. Everything's off. But if you look right now, I am reading about 60, 61 PSI. A lot better than the other one. So I think what happened with the old one, that they gave me some crappy parts as usual. I think it was just the regulator in the assembly there, in the spider assembly, that was bad. Because I could actually hear this one regulate. Now the other one, I don't remember hearing that. Or maybe I wasn't paying attention to it, but this one is a night and day difference on pressure. So we're going to let this stuff cure up, run it, check fuel pressure when it's running, and check fuel trims. Alrighty, I ran it. It's a night and day difference than it was before after replacing that CPI or CMFI, central multi-port fuel injection. Right now, keys off. You can see it's holding pressure at 52 PSI. It's not leaking down at all. It's been sitting there for a couple minutes. So it's holding pressure. Remember, it needs a minimum of 51 PSI to run, but I believe they calibrate the regulator at 58 to 64. We'll do some tests here. We'll look at fuel trims, O2 sensors, wide open throttle checks, look at all that. But as soon as I got in, when it started up in open loop, it was a night and day difference running. So I'm gonna go ahead and start it here. It's already in closed loop, but we'll start it. Look at our fuel pressure while it's running. Stays at 52 psi. Kind of wish it was a little bit more, like, you know, 58 to 64, but I don't know. I just think these parts that they remanufacture, they're just garbage these days. Can't get good parts, it seems like. But I do a snap throttle check here. Watch the gauge. Goes up. It's gonna drop a little bit on decel, obviously, but so right now we're running at 52 psi, almost 53. Which I wish I would like to see a little bit more, but like I said, I am not a fan of these Dorman aftermarket parts. That I'm not going to badmouth any stores, but just get shitty parts these days. Of course, they tell you they give you a year, 3-year lifetime warranty. That doesn't really matter when you got to go back and redo the labor for their shitty parts that they're selling customers these days. But again, that's how these guys make money. They don't make money on troubleshooting. They make money on throwing parts at vehicles. Even though at half the time it probably might not need it. So let me hook my scan tool up. Get back here. All right, let me get in here so you can see this easier. So we're just idling. Fuel system is closed. Long term's 13.3%. Well, it's going to do some corrections, obviously, because it's got the stuff in the memory from before. We'd have to plug the GM Tech 2 to clear all this stuff out again. O2 sensor, cross counts look good there. We'll graph it. But look at the short terms. You know, 3-5%. It's a lot better than, you know, 55 to 75% we were before. I mean, our total fuel term right now is 18% with short and long term, but I believe that'll correct itself as it runs, because it's got, you know, the long term is the memory when it starts up again. But look at the short term. Before it's 50, 60%. We're night and day difference. So if I graph it here, before the cat, our cross counts should hopefully be a lot better. Gas here. Oh, 1800 RPMs. It's running lean right there right now off of decel. Then it's going rich again. So the real test we're going to do now is we're going to take it off for a test drive and see where our it should run rich, obviously. Hold the RPMs at 3,200. Look at that, the cross counts are significantly better at that RPM. But like I said, we're gonna go ahead and do a wide open throttle check. Let's look at fuel pressure again here. At 52 PSI. So now I'll take it and do a wide open throttle check and we'll go from there. Alrighty. I'm going to do a wide open throttle check here to get set up here. Alright. So I'm in drive. Stopped. I'm going to smash it to the floor and watch the graph. Shifted. We're rich, we're rich, we're rich. And I let off, of course, in a decel, it's going to go down to lean. But it's a lot better than the original one. If you remember, there were some drops in the original one we shifted, and it wasn't full rich. Night and day difference there. So that wide open throttle check, O2 sensor, bank 1, sensor 1 before the cat, should stay rich. Of course, it goes in the open loop when you do that, but you can still use that as a source to make sure that you're running rich. And I mean running rich at wide open throttle, it should. So I'm gonna do one more time here, to the floor, rich, we're rich, we're rich. Let off, decel, should go a little bit lean. There we go. Night and day difference, a lot more power. So now what I want to do is I want to hook up the GM Tech 2 scanner, put it in open loop, so I can go bi-directional special function test, make sure it runs good in open loop. Like I know it did originally, but I just want to prove that. Alright, and now I'm going to reset the field trim. So I'm going to go to special functions on the GM Tech 2 field system. Field trim reset. I already reset it once, but I'll show you how to do this. It says long term's 11%, short term's 7, total's 18, 19. That's still wrong, right? But it's learning. So we're going to hit reset here. So if you look on the top commanded state, it goes to reset, and it resets everything. Do it again. So now it's going to learn at this, if you scroll down here, they call it field trim enable. Yeah, so it's learning itself right there. It's going to relearn all the RPM, the load ranges, and all that stuff. I know it seems high right now, but eventually it should correct itself as we drive it in idle and all that stuff. Or let it idle and then drive it. See if there's any other rich leans, going rich and lean there. That's good. The cross counts. Air to fuel ratio 14.7 to 1. Already checked the EGR stuff out. Let's see here. It's idling a little fast. It says desired idle is 650. We're at 7 something. Take a look at that sometime. Map sensor is better. It's 1.22 volts. Before it's 1.08. Let's see what else we got here. Cross counts, you can see it's going to 0 to 1 volt. It's all in millivolts. That's working out well. Of course, the old 2 sensor bank too. There's no cat in there no more because they cut it out and welded one in. Obviously, you can hear exhaust leak. I think the guy that's welding it probably used a little practice on welding. A third-party member came in and welded it, and well, believe me, there's a lot of holes in it still, so they need to go redo that. Cross counts are way up. Before it was like 30 to 50, they're way up. And climbing, that's good. So let's go back. Let's go to engine output controls under special functions. Loop status, we are in closed loop. Pull up the engine 1 data. So we're in closed loop. Long term shows 11%, short term's 9, total's 19. Obviously it's a little high still, but it is learning. So there's a field trim cell. They have field trim block learns and stuff. There's, depending on RPM range, load. Just imagine a big chart and it's learning itself. So it's enabled right now. So it's going to learn all that, and all that hopefully equals all, unless we got another issue with this new injector assembly, which I hope not, you know, because the parts we've been getting lately suck ass. So let's go to open loop. Before we went to open loop, it ran like crap. It's just, you'd be able to hear it almost die before. Now it should be good. Open loop. Right, didn't really hear a change, so that's good. Before, when you're in open loop and revved it wouldn't even, it would run like crap, right? So let's leave it in open loop. Let's look at our fuel pressure again at idle. Just want to see where we're at. And about 51 now. It was 52 earlier. And I don't know if heat just, you know, with the getting all warm in the engine bay, if that's changing that at all, or if that stinking pressure regulator and that assembly we bought is, you know, I don't know. I just think it's garbage parts they sell these days. Let's go back in the closed loop. Let the computer take back over. Your fuel trims will start adjusting. I mean, it's significantly better. We're in closed loop. Fuel pressure's at 50. So I mean, we're still, remember 51 is the minimum to open those poppet valves. Hopefully this new mechanical one, because it's mechanical fill injection. You got one injector, but all these poppet valves have to have 51 psi to open, according to the service data. And then it also has 58 to 64 in the regulator. So at idle, I mean, we're just barely within spec, right? Well, you have the most engine vacuum at idle, so it's going to give you the least amount of fill. When you rev it up, it should go up, right? Because when you rev it, you have less engine vacuum and it'll overcompensate the diaphragm, and you have more pressure. Which it does go up, so that's good. So to review on this thing, because this will probably be the final video now, is we initially had very rich fuel trims for this 95 Blazer with the 4.3 CPI, or GM calls it CMFI, central multi-port fuel injection. Well, we pulled apart part one. It showed the fuel lines leaking because they're chafing against each other. We fixed that, and we did a wide open throttle check. It was pretty good. We wanted to check the cats because all the raw fuel going down there. The guy cut off the cats. I had a third-party guy welded in. Going way down on the back pressure, that's good. We did a relative compression check, made sure we had no dead cylinders or burnt valves. That was all good. We checked the fuel pump. The fuel pump only had 600 milliamps, or 5/8 of an amp, and it's supposed to have, you know, more amperage than that, which we could hook up and imagine we have more amperage now. And the waveform is all distorted. Fuel pump is good, and it was running pretty decent for a couple of days, and then we had more issues. Well, it's because we kept losing pressure because of this remanufactured central port fuel injection assembly we bought from a parts store. It's just garbage, right? They remanned them. I don't know what kind of, I mean, obviously their quality sucks, so it's just all the spec on it. Sometimes it's better to just go with OE parts on these vehicles, because some of these, you know, parts stores, they're just garbage parts, and all they make money on is selling parts to people, not actually troubleshooting and finding an actual problem or solution to the problem. So look at our fuel trims now. That's been idling as I've been talking. Long term 17, short term's 3. So it's putting that short term into the long term. Short term into the long term. It's still learning its block learns. It's still in fuel trim self 17. There's some good videos out there that talks about all that, how that all works. So we'll keep doing that. In that case, we'll keep running it. Go from there. Check our fuel pressure one more time. At 50. That's really at 50, 51. It's just barely enough to open those poppets. And we started more with that. So why are we going down? Hopefully everything stays the same and we don't have any more issues. Or do we get, you know, another crappy part from a parts store? But right now, everything runs awesome. So that is it for this vehicle. I know I said I was done, but I wanted to do one other check because I'm losing a couple PSI of pressure again, yet again, because of these shitty aftermarket parts that the parts stores sell us. So yet again, I have it battery positive, going to the test port, giving the voltage. Right, if you look at the gauge, we're at 58. When we first started, we had 60 PSI with this new CPI, CMFI system. Now we got 58 PSI, so we're losing our 2 PSI. Now watch when we run it. We'll start it here. So now we're running at idle. We got 50, not even 51, 50 PSI. And it needs a minimum 51 to mechanically open those poppets. Before we had like 52, 53. Well, there's our 2 PSI from static and running. So we're losing pressure, and that's why I noticed my fuel trim's going up positive just a little bit here. If you look at the Tech 2 here, I gotta pull it back up. Might have to get a brand new CPI system if this keeps doing this, because these aftermarket ones, or the reman, they suck at rebuilding them. They're complete garbage. But they sell them to the, you know, customer out there, and they make money on them. Selling shitty ass parts yet again. Very frustrating. I should run into this more and more the more stuff I get into. When we first started, we had 5-7% short term. I know it's still learning, but look at the short term now. I mean, it's not 50-55%. 11 on long, 14 on short. That's 25% total. Still way too much. If I go to open loop, Still runs pretty good. You can hear it change a little bit. I mean, not like it was, but why are we losing 2 PSI right away from the beginning? I firmly believe, like I keep saying it, not to beat a dead horse, but be careful where you buy your parts, because these aftermarket companies and the reman, they're just garbage. They just sell you crap these days. And the guys that behind the counter, they just look up the parts. They don't know actually what quality parts are. They just work there, you know. It's just a job for them. They don't troubleshoot shit. They're just selling you crappy parts. And when you got to warranty it out, you got to go back in, take the upper plenum off. You waste the gasket a couple hours and whatever else. Well, who pays for that? Nobody. The shop eats it because of the shitty ass parts these guys sell you. So that's a wrap.